Hey guys, the new Abyss has been released and it is much more difficult than I expected, especially floor 12.1. If you have seen the new Abyss, you probably already know that there are two consecrated beasts and they are a doozy to handle. The TLDR, you have to have two very strong AoE teams to defeat all of the enemies within the allotted time. And that is a lot more difficult because I do have some AoE, but the problem is just that all of my AoE damage is tied into the Bennett Xiangling national comp or any variation of it. So what is the best combination here? Effectively, any AoE team that you have, you'll need two versions of it. So if we look at the lineup, it starts out with about 5 different ruin monsters, and they are pretty easy to beat because they're already grouped up and they don't really drift apart too often, although the ruin defenders do sometimes jump too far. The ruin hunter, especially if you have a character that jumps, can sometimes fly up and go out of your range of your AoE damage. And even the ruin destroyer sometimes goes underground. Like, there are a lot of RNG involved with it, but if you reset a couple times and hope for the best, you can defeat the first wave of enemies pretty easily with any standard hero effect focused team. The issue with this first half is really the combo of the consecrated crocodile and the saber-toothed tiger. These guys are extremely tanky, they move around a lot, and they are very aggressive. So they'll be constantly attacking you, they will constantly stun lock you. They do have a mechanic, however, where they summon a little crystal beside them, and if you hit the crystal with any elemental ability, it will give you a mini buff. And if you attack that enemy while you have that buff on, you will stun it and reduce its resistances quite significantly. If you attack that same crystal with a matching element, instead of you having to do multiple elemental attacks to destroy it, you only really have to do one. So sometimes it can be beneficial to bring an element that matches the consecrated beast just so that you can have that opportunity to more quickly defeat them. It's not necessarily a recommendation to target that, however, because they only really summon that crystal quite a while into the battle. So if you already at the point where the crystal is summoned, it's probably already too late. If you can defeat them before that, that would be ideal. The same thing goes for the second half. This one is a lot more difficult than the first half because the first half is really just 2 waves of enemies. For the second half, it's 3 different waves, starting with the mushroom enemies, and then after that we have the Kairagi and the Nabushi combo, and then after that it's the consecrated beast again. So it's actually pretty difficult to manage things like your energy, your cooldowns, everything that you need to burst all of these different waves down on time. So the trick really is, when it comes to the mushroom enemies, target the Dendro one first, because if you start the match about 5 seconds into it, it will start flying, and unless you have a ranged unit on your team, it's going to waste a lot of time trying to get it back down. So the first thing you want to do as soon as the match starts is target that Dendro enemy. Eventually it will disable it, and then just burst all of the other enemies down with as much AoE as you can. Maybe try and save some of your cooldowns if you have some long wait times or some high energy abilities. You can save it until you get to the hierarchy, which will take a little bit longer. So once the hierarchy wave starts, they will eventually all just group up, and once they're there, just try and kill both at the same time. So once you're done with the hierarchy, you're done with the mushroom, then we're back with the consecrated beasts. Here it's effectively the same strategy as 4-1. You want to burst them down as much as possible with as much AoE as you have. They will be very aggressive, they will be staggering you constantly. Here you just want to have some type of a unit that allows you to base tank as much of this damage as possible. So if you have a shield, a very strong shield like Zhongli, you could use that, or you could use the Pyro Archon himself, Bennett, So if you do have any of the national variations, I would recommend putting it on the second half because it's 3 waves worth of enemies to get through, and that will take a lot longer than just the 2 waves for the first half. And any other strong AoE team comp that you have, put that on the first half. So now that the formalities are out of the way, I can go into what combination I managed to defeat these enemies. So you can see on the first half, I start out with my Raiden Shogun. Here I'm doing an Aggravate Hyperbloom combo. So I start out with Raiden and Sucrose for the AoE damage plus the Viridescent Venerer resistance shred plus the elemental mastery share. Sucrose is so good, she has so much to her kit. I go with Xingqiu because he's not only providing the hydro element so we can get some Hyperblooms off, but he also adds a pseudo shield. It prevents you from getting staggered. It also reduces some of the damage that you're taking and will provide a very minor heal. And lastly we have Nahida. So with this we get a Hyperbloom, Aggravate, double swirl, madness. That's just pure chaos. For the second half, we are doing a Childe Vaporize team comp. This one is pretty straightforward. We have Childe as the main Hydro driver and Kazuha for grouping, Viridescent Venerer, Elemental Shred. We got the Elemental damage buff, and then you have Pyro Archon Benny for damage buffs and heals, as well as Xiangling for doing a lot of pyro application and vaporizes with Childe. Kazuha also acts as a pseudo pyro applicator when both Bennett and Xiangling's ults are on cooldown. So that's it, and now we get to the gameplay.
Everyone hold in!
Rain outlines your fate. Let me weep.
Animal hypostasis. Share my knowledge. Stand clear.
No, my sword.
Torn to oblivion. Ha! Ha! Illusion shattered. Make yourselves at home.
Rain cutter. Rain outlines your fate.
Absorption. Enhanced animal module 75. Stand clear. Absorption test. Now you shall perish. The Temple of Wisdom.
Witness the power of Gugwa.
Animal hypostasis emulation. Stand clear. Shine down. Inazuma shines eternal.
One with nature. The wind knows me. As one with wind and cloud. You can run, but you can't hide. Who's next?
Huh? I'm going in! Huh?
You're toast.
How's this? Riptide! One with nature. Clouds high. The birds call.
Huh?
Out of the frying pan, into the...
Teamwork is dreamwork! Let's light it up!
Into the wind. One with nature. As one with wind and cloud. You can run, but you can't hide. Amateur
Adventure time!
Boba, get them!
Huh? I'm going in!
Eat this!
Into the wind. Clouds high. The birds call. Oh.